Chapter 16. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord his God, like David his father. But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, yea, and made his son to pass through the fire, according to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel. And he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places and on the hills, and under every green tree. Then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war, and they besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. At that time Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria, and drave the Jews from Elath, and the Syrians came to Elath, and dwelt there unto this day. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tilgath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord, and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria hearkened unto him, for the king of Assyria went up against Damascus, and took it, and carried the people of it captive to Kir, and slew Rezin. And King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tilgath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Urijah the priest to fashion of the altar and the pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof. And Urijah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Urijah the priest made it against King Ahaz, came from Damascus. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar, and the king approached to the altar, and offered thereon. And he burnt his burnt offering and his meat offering, and poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offering upon the altar. And he brought also the brazen altar, which was before the Lord, from the forefront of the house, from between the altar and the house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the altar. And King Ahaz commanded Urijah the priest, saying, Upon the great altar burn the morning burnt offering, and the evening meat offering, and the king's burnt sacrifice, and his meat offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their meat offering, and their drink offerings, and sprinkle upon it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice. And the brazen altar shall be for me to inquire by. Thus did Urijah the priest, according to all that King Ahaz commanded. And King Ahaz cut off the borders of the bases, and removed the laver from off of them, and took down the sea from off the brazen oxen that were under it, and put it upon the pavement of stones. And the covert for the Sabbath day that they had built in the house, and the king's entry without, turned he from the house of the Lord for the king of Assyria. Now the rest of the acts of Ahaz which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Hezekiah his son reigned in his stead. Here we have a record of something which is absolutely horrible. In verse 3 it talks about the fire of Molech, and I've made reference to it before. But this seems to be the very first time we actually have a record of a king of one of the Jewish nations actually physically killing his son and sacrificing his son as a burnt offering to the heathen god Molech. Now we have a record that the Moabite king, who was not Jewish, in time of war sacrificed his son to his god to appease his god, so that they wouldn't be mad with him and they'd be able to come off the victors, or at least not be totally defeated. But we don't have any specific record of any Jewish king, monarch, actually doing this. We have beliefs that Jezebel and Ahab did it plenty. That was a very common part of their worship. But to do this to a mature individual as opposed to a baby was something rare. But we believe that this is actually the first recorded instance of it happening. Now, what had happened was that this king of Judah was morally corrupt and didn't do what he should, was not protected. The king of Israel and the king of Syria, the two kingdoms north of him, came down to Jerusalem and fought against him. And he basically, they couldn't quite capture the city. But he sent money to the monarch who was over the Assyrian, not Syrian, Assyrian Empire, which was to the east of Syria and the northeast of Israel, saying, I am thy son. In other words, I am thy servant. I will give you tribute. Here's the gold as a down payment. Come and help me. And the king of Assyria attacked Damascus, which was the capital of Syria, killed the Syrian king, and deported all the people. And when the king of Judah went up to Damascus to meet the Assyrian king, he happened to see an altar that he really thought was really classy and neat. Very different than the one, we know it was different, but we don't know how different it was, than the one that was being used in the temple. And so he sent directions down to the fellow who was the acting as the high priest or of the temple, who obviously wasn't too righteous either. And otherwise he wouldn't have built the altar. And what they did was they replaced the new altar that the king of Judah loved the appearance of, and that one replaced the altar as God had described it, and they moved things around. And he wanted everything, he wanted the new one used because it struck his fancy. And last but not least, it talks about the covert for the Sabbath. Now, that was one of two things. We're not perfectly sure which. The first one either was, it was an awning, covered awning, where the royal family could go from the palace through to the inside of the temple and there sit on the Sabbath day, protected from the heat of the sun, if there happened to be any rain, which was pretty rare in that area, but usually from the heat of the sun. And they could listen to, while sitting there, the law that was read while the sacrifices were done on the Sabbath day. Or it was simply a sheltered area where the royal family could sit and listen. And basically, he said he switched that around so it was a place for the king of Syria to come. Which would not have been acceptable, by the way, because the king of Assyria was not Jewish. He was not entitled to be in there. But that obviously didn't seem to matter to these people. So those are the elements.